Every Sunday, Miriam sat in the same corner of the sunny brunch spot her family had visited for years. She liked the calm, the way the light danced on the polished table, and the quiet hum of other families talking. In front of her, a cup of coffee had long gone cold, but she stirred it anyway, slowly over and over. It was a small habit that helped her stay calm. No one paid her any attention. The spotlight, as always, was on her older sister, Felicia. She sat with one leg crossed over the other, the diamond on her hand catching the sunlight like it was begging to be noticed. Felicia's laugh rang out across the cafe. "Your old job was such a snooze fest, Miriam," she said, her voice just loud enough to make people glance over. "It's kind of hilarious that someone in their 30s still doesn't have a real job." Her words stung, but only Felicia found them funny. Miriam didn't look up. She just pressed her lips together and kept stirring her coffee. Her mother shifted awkwardly. "Felicia, don't be like that," she murmured. But Felicia only shrugged. In her world, silence meant failure. Miriam's father tried to change the subject. "These eggs are too salty," he said, stabbing at his plate, but Felicia's smirk lingered like a hook waiting for someone to bite. Miriam stayed silent. She always had. At family gatherings, she rarely spoke, and somehow that made them think she had nothing worth saying. What they didn't know was that silence was where Miriam thrived. It was her shelter. Behind the scenes, where no one was watching, she had quietly built a world they could never imagine. She remembered the day it began. She was 27, sitting in a small rented apartment with her best friend from college, Jide, as they typed the first lines of code for a system that would one day power hospitals, banks, and major government agencies. At 33, she was now the co-founder of Lumra Tech, a company valued at over $80 million. But no one in her family knew. She had never been listed on the website. In interviews, Jide was the face. Miriam chose to remain unseen. Her name lived in internal documents, contracts, and, ironically, on Felicia's job application. Because now, Felicia had applied to work at Lumra Tech, completely unaware that the woman she used to mock was sitting in charge of the system that would decide her future. "I'm a problem solver," Felicia had said at brunch, waving her hand like her past failures were dust she could shake off. "This new place, Lumra or whatever, they'll be lucky to have me." Miriam had nearly laughed. That sentence was word for word what Felicia used to throw at her, back when no one believed she'd ever make it. Miriam kept her expression still as Felicia rambled on. "I already applied. If they bring me in, I'll fix their budget better than anyone. And if they don't..." She shrugged. "It's their loss." Miriam pressed her tongue to the roof of her mouth to hold back a laugh. That exact confidence, so loud, so sure, was something Felicia wore like perfume. But the truth was, she had no idea she was walking into the very world Miriam had built with her own hands. Miriam didn't speak, but her silence wasn't weakness. It was control. She remembered her 12th birthday. Everyone was in the living room singing when Felicia burst in, holding a massive gold trophy from her state dance competition. "Our baby girl did it again," their mom had shouted, hugging Felicia tightly. Miriam stood by her cake. The candles flickered, but no one asked what she wished for. No one even noticed she hadn't blown them out. Later, she took her small pile of gifts and went upstairs, opened her old laptop, and quietly continued building her first data model. Even as a child, Miriam loved the things no one clapped for. She spent hours taking apart toys to see how they worked. She'd sit quietly, piecing together broken gadgets or trying to understand how her favorite video game functioned without glitches. Her mother used to joke, "That girl could sit for 5 hours without saying a word." Her father once laughed and said, "We've got a firework and a flashlight in this house. Guess who's who?" No one needed to guess. Felicia sparkled. Miriam glowed quietly, steady and unnoticed. As they grew older, the gap only widened. Felicia studied fine arts and did small TV interviews after local performances. Miriam studied computer science at a small tech institute no one in the family bothered to remember. When she graduated, they forgot the date. Everyone was too focused on Felicia's fashion line launch. Miriam never said anything. She just kept going. She had learned early that her worth wouldn't be measured by applause. It would be measured in results. And quietly, she began collecting them. Lumra Tech began with 2 laptops and an idea to create a smart analytic system that could predict human behavior in real time. Jide was the one who talked. He pitched to investors, gave interviews, and ran meetings. Miriam was the one backstage, writing code, debugging through the night. 1 year in, a major bank signed on for a trial. By the 3rd year, they had clients across healthcare, finance, and security. At the 5-year mark, Lumra was worth over $80 million. But ask anyone in the industry, and they'd only know Jide's name. Miriam never minded. Miriam didn't care for the spotlight. She didn't want her face on tech blogs or her name trending on social media. Fame had never interested her. She cared about building things, quietly with purpose. She wanted her work to speak for itself. As for Felicia, after her fashion business crashed due to poor money management, she returned to a small accounting firm. That job lasted a year before she was laid off. Now she was chasing something new. Applying to Lumra without a clue, she was placing her future in Miriam's hands. To Felicia, "I'll always be the little sister with her head in the clouds," Miriam thought, her eyes on the resume in front of her. The same resume that listed a few short-term jobs and big claims. But none of that mattered. Because Felicia didn't know that the budget spreadsheets she'd be working on were designed by Miriam. That her paycheck would carry Miriam's hidden approval. The thought made Miriam pause, not out of revenge, but from a strange feeling, curiosity. Will she ever see me as more than a girl with broken laptops? She wondered. That night, back in her quiet apartment overlooking the Seattle skyline, Miriam sat with her tea and opened her laptop. The Lumra system greeted her. She logged into the admin portal, a place only 2 people had access to. Her and Jide. A new application file sat in the queue. Applicant, Felicia Johnson. Miriam leaned back, fingers lightly touching the keyboard. Her sister's photo appeared on the screen, smiling confidently in a beige blazer. The internal review had marked her as strong candidate, recommended for next interview. Miriam didn't type a word. She just clicked the 3 dots at the top right of the screen. A small window popped open. Forward code. HR. Approve. Confidential. She clicked approve. Felicia was in. No one else in the company would know who had approved her. Only Jide knew Miriam's true role, and he respected her decision to stay anonymous. From the very beginning, Miriam had chosen to stay behind the curtain while Jide took the stage. She didn't want a public image. She wanted peace. At Lumra, everyone just knew her as Miriam, the quiet senior technical advisor who worked mostly remote and came into the office once a week after hours. She oversaw major projects, approved company-wide spending, and led development strategy. But to most employees, she was just a voice in the background. Jide handled all press and investor events. He never slipped, never revealed her. Miriam had sometimes wondered if she'd regret staying in the shadows. But now, with Felicia unknowingly stepping into her world, she felt that her decision had given this moment a quiet power. On Felicia's first day at Lumra, Miriam stayed home. As usual, she kept to her routine, quiet, deliberate. But that morning, she did one thing differently. She activated a small internal feature, something she'd personally coded. The company's discreet security camera system gave her a view of the shared kitchen on the 9th floor. The image was clear. Felicia stood near the espresso machine, glancing at the digital board displaying project updates. "This is the new company that hired me," she said to a colleague. "Word is, one of the founders is a mystery. Might not even be real." Miriam chuckled under her breath. It wasn't the first time she'd heard that rumor. Many employees thought the company only had one real founder, Jide. The other co-founder they assumed was a legal figurehead. That afternoon, Jide called her. His voice came through with a grin. "She's off to a decent start," he said. "Confident. Maybe too confident. Are you sure you want to keep this up?" Miriam smiled, sipping her tea. "Let's keep it this way," she replied. "If she's good, she'll earn her place. If not, the truth will find her faster." This wasn't revenge. Miriam wasn't looking to embarrass Felicia. She didn't want her sister to fail. She only wanted to see who Felicia would become when no one was watching. When no one clapped. Would she still perform? Or would she learn to listen? 2 weeks passed. Then 3. Every time Miriam came into the office at night, Felicia had already left. Miriam continued her silent routine. Approving budgets, reviewing files, walking through quiet hallways. Until one evening in the server room, something unexpected happened. Miriam was checking a recent security update when the sound of heels echoed down the hallway. She stepped out of the glass server room, and there stood Felicia. The surprise on her face was instant. "Miriam," she asked, narrowing her eyes, "what are you doing here? Only senior staff has access to this floor." Miriam tilted her head and smiled. "I guess I have special access," she said. Felicia's mouth opened to respond when Jide walked out from a nearby door, holding a folder. "Hey Miriam," he said. "Mind signing off on the new AI rollout?" Felicia's expression froze. Miriam calmly took the folder and flipped through the pages. Jide gave a small nod and disappeared back into the hallway. Felicia stood, completely still. No words came, but Miriam saw it in her eyes. The first crack. The seed of doubt had been planted. "Who are you really?" her eyes seemed to ask. Miriam didn't explain. She simply walked away, leaving Felicia standing there, her mind beginning to connect pieces that had been hidden in plain sight. From that moment, the silence between them had started to shift, not loudly but deeply. The next morning, Miriam sat at her desk with the city, cloaked in a gentle drizzle. She had just signed off on Lumra's quarterly report when her phone rang. It was Jide. "Something funny just happened," he said, sounding amused. "I think Felicia's getting curious." Miriam raised an eyebrow. What did she do? A notification blinked on her screen. Request. Confirm NS signature in internal budget file. Her chest tightened slightly. The initials, NS, stood for Nora Shade, Miriam's alias in the internal systems. But buried inside the metadata was her real name, Miriam Aladiel. Nearly 2 months had passed since Felicia started working at Lumra. She had found her rhythm, making confident suggestions in meetings, impressing a few department leads. Miriam had quietly approved each of her proposals. But Felicia had started noticing patterns. Some documents had consistent sign-offs from this mysterious NS. One day, she overheard a junior analyst whisper, "Who's this NS person? It's like a ghost. They sign everything important." Felicia smirked. "Probably just a figurehead," she replied. "I don't trust names without faces." Miriam, seated behind the wooden divider nearby, took a quiet breath. She was watching her sister inch closer to the truth. 3 days later, Felicia walked into accounting and requested deeper access to quarterly files. Her clearance granted it. She opened document after document, her fingers moving faster, her face tightening. And then she found it, her sister's full name, listed on founding papers. Her breath caught. Miriam Aladiel, co-founder and chief technical architect. The woman she believed sat around typing nonsense at home had been behind the curtain all along. That afternoon, an alert popped up on Miriam's screen. Access attempt. Founding record/user. Felicia Johnson. Miriam arrived at the office earlier than usual that evening. She didn't want to miss Felicia's reaction. As she stepped into the pantry, she found her sister alone, holding a printed document, eyes wide and filled with disbelief. Miriam approached slowly. "You okay?" she asked. Felicia turned, her face flushed. You're the co-founder, she said. It wasn't a question. Miriam nodded. Since day one, she replied. Back when we shared a broken table in Capitol Hill. Felicia let out a dry, bitter laugh. So I've been working under my little sister. All this time. Miriam didn't flinch. You're capable, Felicia. That's why I approved your promotion. Not because I'm your sister. If you weren't good, I wouldn't have hesitated to say no. Felicia looked down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Miriam pulled a folded paper from her pocket. A proposal for a tech education initiative aimed at young girls. We're launching this next quarter. I think you'd be great for it. Felicia didn't take the paper, but her eyes lingered. Something in her was shifting. A quietness fell between them, not of tension, but of realization. The 5-year Lumra Gala was held in a grand glass venue by Lake Victoria. Miriam stood in the dressing room, adjusting her black dress. It was simple, elegant, just like her. Her hair was pinned neatly, her lips touched with a soft pink gloss. She wasn't ready, but she was no longer hiding. Jide peeked in, smiling. You ready? She took a deep breath. Not really, but I think it's time. Together, they walked onto the stage. Please welcome the co-founders of Lumra Tech, Jide Balogun and Miriam Oladil. Applause erupted like waves crashing on a quiet shore. Miriam stepped into the light. Her eyes scanned the crowd. Then she saw her, Felicia, standing in the back of the room, eyes locked on her, one hand gripping a glass of champagne she hadn't touched. It was the same look Miriam remembered from childhood, the moment when something once invisible finally became undeniable. Jide spoke first, sharing their journey, the struggles, the victories, the long nights. When he passed the mic to Miriam, the room fell silent. Hi, she began softly. I'm Miriam Oladil, and for many of you, this is the first time you've seen me. Gentle laughter rippled through the crowd. Miriam smiled. I never wanted to be famous. I just wanted to build something that helped people. I chose silence so others could shine. But today I'm stepping out, not for recognition, but for gratitude. Applause echoed again. As the ceremony ended and dinner began, Miriam tried to slip into a corner. But everyone wanted to talk, to thank her, to finally meet the mystery behind the code. When she looked back to the spot where Felicia stood, it was empty. Her sister had left. Quietly, without a word. 2 days later, Miriam left a small package in the internal delivery box. Inside, a navy linen notebook, a black pen, and a handwritten note. Felicia, thank you for your work. You're capable. I'm proud to work with you. We started in silence, but that doesn't mean we can't grow into something more. She didn't sign her name. She expected no reply. But over the next few days, Miriam noticed a change. Felicia stopped sitting with her arms folded. She started listening, asking better questions, mentoring junior interns. Weeks later, HR announced a new internal initiative. Free workshops for young women in tech. Proposed by Felicia Johnson. At the bottom of the proposal, one line stood out. Inspired by the quiet mission of Miriam Oladil. That afternoon, Miriam passed Felicia in the pantry. They paused. The notebook, Felicia said softly. It's beautiful. I've already filled a few pages. Miriam smiled. I'm glad you liked it. Felicia nodded. I didn't understand you before, but now I want to try. Miriam replied, we don't have to rewrite the past. We just start from now. And together they did, step by quiet step.